Hey, what are you guys up to? I'm not in the greenhouse. I'm in the kitchen. You know why we're in the kitchen? Because we're making beef jerky today. That's right, from scratch. Stop licking the blood off my hands, dog. This is not helping. Thor's right down here. I had the roast in my hands here, and he's real interested in what my hands smell like. Anyways, so we're making beef jerky. So a couple of things. I'm going to use, instead of a meat tenderizer in the marinade, I'm going to use pineapple juice because it's a natural meat marinade or a natural meat tenderizer. I'm going to be using a sirloin tip roast. It was on sale, so couldn't pass it up. And it's a really nice piece of meat. If you guys want to make jerky, one of the most important things that you need to have with your meat is it has to be lean. You don't want fat on there because the fat will go rancid. All right? So I'm going to show you the first steps we're doing. I haven't even made the marinade yet. So here's our roast. All right? It's good size. There's almost no fat in it. There's a little here. You can see that, and I'll remove that. There's some here. Look, see, there's an intersection of muscle here. So I will remove this and I will cut out any of that membrane in there, any of that membrane in there. So we just return that to a solid piece. And then we're going to remove all of this silver skin on the outside. And if you guys have ever had to cut meat, right, like this, and you need it to be thin, the best thing to do is to put it in the freezer for a couple of hours. And you don't want it to freeze, but it will really tighten up that meat, okay? And it will make it way easier to cut your meat thinly. So I'm gonna start by prepping this and cutting all the pieces off that I don't want, okay? And then we're going to cut it in half, whichever way so whenever you're cooking, or whenever you're making jerky, by the way, you want to cut it against the grain, okay? So you see the fibers are going this way, okay? So we are going to cut our jerky against the grain of the fiber. That way, when you take a bite, you can just pull it apart as opposed to long strings of beef, and then you end up fighting it and chewing on it. So, step one, we're gonna trim this out. If you guys are looking for a really good knife, okay, the Victorinox upswept semi-flexible, okay? These are only like 20 some odd dollars on Amazon, and this is literally the brand that butchers are using, okay? If you wanted to take a screenshot, let's get this in the camera here. Oh, of course it's not gonna work. Come on. No. It's too oh, there we go. Okay. Take your screenshot. Good? Good. So we're going to start by cutting this silver skin off. It's really important to have a sharp knife, guys. So we just take that little bit of silver skin off. That's garbage. Don't need that. And then we gotta figure out how to get this out. So I'm going to finish trimming this up. And then once it's trimmed up, we'll show you the next one. All right, so here's what we got. 1, 2, 3, 4. All trimmed up. And this is what I was talking about with the grain of the meat. Okay, you see it? It's running down this way. So when we cut this, right, we're going to want to cut against the grain. We don't want to cut slices this way, right, because then it's going to be chewier. We want to cut against that grain. So now that we've got all 4 of those done, I'm going to take this meat I'm putting it in a Ziploc bag. I'm gonna throw it in my freezer and I'm gonna give it a couple of hours to firm up in my freezer. Maybe, 2 hours, 3 hours, depending. Okay, so next step. And this is all the scraps that we got off of it. There's not much. It's just basically silver skin and a bunch of little odds and sods. And I'm just gonna feed that to the dog for dinner. So he'll be happy. So here we go. Just took the meat out of the freezer. This is what you're looking for. It's starting to freeze, but it's still semi-soft, okay? It's gonna make it way easier to cut thinly. So then, like I said before, you find the direction that the meat fibers are running. So they're running basically like this. So we're going to cut it 90 degrees to that. Figure out which way that is on the roast. And then we're going to cut them in about 1/4 inch thick slices. We're just going to square it off to begin with. Okay. And then we're just going to start slicing. That's what we're looking for. You can go thinner than that too. All right. And this is why you'd never be able to get slices like that if this was raw. Look what I'm talking about. Look how flat that is. Okay, if this was raw, this would be all squished and bubbled out and cutting on a funny angle. All right, so I'm going to cut up the rest. All right, so we good? Okay. Got all the meat cut up. So each one of these piles was a different section that we cut up. So how much do you think this meat, all of this, would get you if you had to buy beef jerky like this at the store? I mean, we're probably looking at $30+ of beef jerky here, and I'm into this for 14 bucks so far. So, all right, so that's step one. Got it all cut up. We're gonna take this, we're gonna put it back in that Ziploc bag, and then we're gonna get to making our marinade. What do you say we make the marinade? Okay, this is what we're gonna need. Ready? You can write this down, I'll go nice and slow. 1 cup brown sugar. I use Demerara sugar. So in case you didn't know, brown sugar is just white sugar with molasses added to it. Demerara sugar is unprocessed sugar. 1 cup. In here is 1 cup of soy sauce and 3 tablespoons of washer sister sauce. On here we have 1 tablespoon onion powder, 1 tablespoon onion powder, 1 tablespoon garlic powder, 1 tablespoon black pepper, 1 teaspoon of chili flakes. I'm going a little less because my kids are going to eat this too and they don't like things spicy. And 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika. And that is my homemade smoked paprika. And if you haven't seen how I make that, you really got to do that. And the last item that the recipe calls for is meat tenderizer, but we're not using meat tenderizer. We're using pineapple juice. And the reason we're using pineapple juice is because it contains a natural meat tenderizer called bromelade. And so we are just going to mix our natural meat tenderizer right in there like that. All right, I'm gonna mix this in. You wanna make sure that you dissolve the sugar in the bottom. So we got this all mixed up. The sugar's basically all dissolved in there. And if you're wondering why we didn't add any salt, it's because the soy sauce in there, there's a cup of soy sauce, so it's already going to be really salty. You can add your own salt. If you're going to use salt, I recommend that you use Himalayan pink rock salt because it's better for you, or a non-iodized salt. I don't even have iodized salt in my house, so. And then we're going to, I put the meat in the Ziploc bag, put it on a plate, because there's a chance that you may have put a little pinhole in your Ziploc bag and you don't want this leaking out everywhere because it'll be a massive mess. Oh, all right, let's lift that up a little bit. Okay, and then we're going to just combine A into B. I'm going to leave a little bit left in the bowl because I'm going to use that to get all the rest of the little bits and pieces that are loose in the bowl here. All right. Make sure it's zipped up real good, and then work it into that meat. You're going to want to let this sit for at least 12 hours in your fridge. And I'll massage this marinade into the meat at least a couple of times before we finish with this tomorrow. Okay, into the fridge goes. I'll see you guys it's 9:30 Monday night right now. I'll see you guys tomorrow afternoon sometime. We're back. All right. So the meat has been marinating for 17 hours. And I've mushed it up a bunch of times in the bag to make sure that I'm getting marinade between all the pieces of meat if they may have been stuck together. Right? And so next what we're going to do, have a metal strainer with a bowl underneath. We're just going to dump it out into that strainer and let all that extra marinade drip off, because we don't want that marinade just dripping off the meat in the dehydrator. So we'll just let that sit for a couple of minutes, and we'll just drain that marinade off. It's been about 5 minutes. I've drained a bunch of the marinade out of the bowl already, and we're down to the last little bit. You can see just a few drips. All right, so what we're gonna do is move this over here. I've got my sheets for my trays from my dehydrator. I have a baking sheet because it's still going to drip a little bit. So we're basically just going to load a sheet or load a tray, put the next one on top, load a tray, load a tray, load a tray, and then we'll just run them into the dehydrator. Look how good that looks. Oh, buddy. So we're just going to lay them out in single file. Lay them flat. Make sure you unroll them if they're kind of tucked over. Make sure you untuck them. And these are going to go into my Cabela's 10 tray dehydrator. All right. That looks pretty damn good, eh? It smells really good. All right, so I'm gonna load up all of these trays. And then when I get them all loaded, we'll turn the camera back on. We got her done. We got 5 trays. I've left lots of space around all the meat. I want as much air circulation as I can get when these go in the dehydrator. So it's a 10 tray dehydrator. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put one of these racks in every second slot so there's even more airflow around them. There we go. See, we got them all lined up. We're skipping a tray. We got them all up. Next thing you know, we close the door like that. And we are going to turn this to 140 degrees. Okay. And we'll turn it on. And there we go. And I'm not sure how long this is going to take because I haven't run jerky in this dehydrator yet. I did it in the Excalibur that I used to have. If you guys don't want to buy a Cabela's dehydrator, if you're looking for a new one, the Excaliburs are also fantastic dehydrators. Okay, they're a little bit pricey, but they are definitely worth the money. Okay, so I'm gonna run this for probably, I'm just gonna guess about 24 hours, and I will check intermittently as this progresses, and when we're done, we'll turn the camera back on and we'll show you guys the final product and we'll do a taste test. We got her done, boys and girls. So it's the following day, but I actually turned the dehydrator off last night about 11:30. So this took 9 hours or 10 hours to do. Look at that. How good does that look? So you want it dry, but not super crispy, right? Basically, you know. I gave some to my kids, and they said it's really good. I had some. It's really good. It's got a good chew to it, which I look for in my beef jerky. See? And so I've got it in a Ziploc bag. I'm going out to Walmart later on today, and I'm going to buy a big glass jar that I can put this in with a big open neck on it so I can get my big fat hands in there. So there's, I don't know, 1.5 pounds, maybe 2 pounds worth in here when it's all said and done. And this just cost me, what did I pay? $14 for the roast. So plus the supplies that went in it. So the nice thing about this, guys, is you can do something like this with your kids, right? You can make this sort of like a kid activity. You know, you do the slicing and they do the marinating, and you know, that way they can get their hands in it. And I'm also going to be using this. Some of this is going in my bug out bag and each one of my kids' bug out bags, and then I'll probably put some of that in their lunches. Look at that. Oh baby. Okay, well, I'll leave it up to you. Now, like I said, there's also lots of beef jerky recipes online. Okay, this one I used today, or the one I used for this, I found online too, because I don't make this enough to have my own recipe. I just took someone else's recipe and I made it, and it turned out really good. So, hope you guys like this video, and smash that subscribe button and the thumbs up, and have an awesome day. All right, see ya.